Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. We are here on June 15th, 2023, 7 p.m. for the Cecil Township Planning Commission. First, actually, before we get into the full agenda, I'd just like to take a moment and express our condolences for Christy won't be here tonight. She lost her father, and we express our condolences for her and her family and their loss. So, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We need to approve them.
Without minutes today, I apologize. If we can do copies for everybody. But I think, I believe they've been circulated, it's just I don't have copies for you right now.
Yeah, they've definitely been circulated. I wasn't present at the last meeting, so I'd be abstaining. You were here?
No.
You weren't here?
I abstain.
Okay.
I was here.
You were here and you were
Yes, sir.
here.
So
You
we
wrote
could-
them. Did you read them when you emailed them
I
out?
did, yes,
Okay, do you need to see a physical copy to,
I don't.
if you want to make a,
I'll make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
I'll second that motion.
we have a motion to approve the minutes in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll be abstaining.
Abstain. Abstain.
Motion carries. All right, we have, next item on is a review of previous decisions. Jack, did you have any updates for us on previous decisions and their motions through the Board of Supervisors?
Not that, nothing this,
They approved the three simple subdivisions last month, Alto Piano,
oh,
the two Alto Pianos, and the Wagner. or-
Walker.
I'm sorry, Walker, Upper Rising.
Okay. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is old business. We have application 2022-0036, rank plan of lots number 2 subdivision plan.
Mr. Rank had applied for an extension, and that extension expires this month. We've heard nothing from him. So at this point, we're going to close that.
Okay, so we need to make a motion then to recommend it for not approval then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He would have to reapply for this because this is his second extension of 90 days. Obviously, from the file number, it goes back to 2022. I think the issue has more to do with the sewage module than anything else.
I'll make a motion to reject application 2022-0036, the rank plan of lots number 2 subdivision plan.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion to reject and a second. All in favor of rejecting the application?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is application 2023-0011, Gerber Collision Land Development.
I sent today the extension of time request, which was granted. They have two items that are still pending. One is the soil test, and the other is the sewage module. No, stormwater, I apologize, stormwater. And they anticipate having everything, they were hoping to have everything today or done by today, and they decided to go with the extension, but I anticipate they'll be ready next time.
So table.
Yeah, do we have a motion to table then?
I move to table application number 2023-0011 Gerber Collision Land Development due to the extension of time agreement dated June 15th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next we have application 2023-0014, conditional use, Toward property? Tower? Tower, thank you.
Good evening. My name's Bill Moldovan. I'm with Kimley Horn, representing D&M Real Estate and NVR this evening. We were here last month. We allowed ourselves to be continued to this evening to allow some commissioners that were not present to voice their feedback with regards to our application. NVR, Ryan Klausnitzer, asked me to ask for an apology for him not being here this evening. He coaches his son's baseball team, and they had a rain out and a reschedule to tonight. So I believe I'm able to answer everything question-wise from the developer side as well as the builder side. At last month's meeting, we went through a majority of the project details. The way I was going to approach this evening was to start with the concerns that we heard last month and how we've addressed them in the past month. I do have the presentation from last month's meeting if we do want to get into any of the details that were provided during last month's meeting. How to advance this right here. May meeting summary. As I said, we presented the project team and the development description. Some of the things that we heard, concerns from both the township and one resident that was here, was in regards to open space and the ownership of the open space for the PRD, or for the cluster development, I should say. And that will be by the Homeowners Association. The traffic distribution and counts, we presented a traffic impact statement prior to last month's meeting. It was suggested that we conduct traffic counts at the site during the school year, put us in a little bit of a scheduling bind in terms of getting that done in a 2-week period. We were able to do that while school was still in session. And we revised our report and submitted that to Gateway this past week. Site distance at Profio Road was a concern, especially by the resident that was here. Her property is directly adjacent to that entrance, our proposed entrance. We conducted site distance measurements, and we recorded those, and I'll describe them tonight, and they were also included in the revised traffic statement. And those distances are adequate. Sewers, there was a question about whether or not we would be taking our sewer flows to Midway Sewer Authority. I did reach back out to David Koch, I believe is his name, the director, and NVR, the developer, had met with Mr. Koch and the Sewer Authority months ago to determine that the sewer flows would need to go in their direction, and we confirmed that again. We talked about the trail not being shown on the plan. We've presented a conceptual alignment to the plan, and That has been submitted. We also reported last month, and no change this month, that that trail will be a crushed aggregate, a compacted crushed aggregate. Roadway improvements were a concern, and it was suggested by Gateway that we conduct a field meeting with the township and DPW. We did that. That was last Thursday, and it was a productive meeting. The developer is amenable to reasonable either traffic impact fees associated with the construction of the lots, do a building permit, or however the township wants to handle those roadway improvements. I believe at this point we are waiting for some cost estimates that are going to come back from the township before those discussions continue. But I think during the meeting, the township, the DPW, and the developer were all in agreement with the approach and the steps moving forward with regards to what improvements would need to be made. And the last item that was a question was the cluster mailbox. NVR has reached out to the McDonald Post Office, and they couldn't provide us with specific feedback at this point, but they said that they're ready to work with us. So we've shown it on the plans where we think it makes sense, where it's ADA accessible, where it's central to the community and the development, and we feel confident moving forward that we can provide those in locations that the McDonald Post Office will agree upon. As I said, the field meeting happened last week, June 8th, and this is just a kind of a recap of what I just described. We will wait for additional information from the township and then move that conversation forward. Summary of the traffic data, trip distribution. I have a graphic after this slide to kind of recap or show what this is saying, but there's three directions that the traffic is moving today, and we have two proposed entrances to the site. One is on King and one is on Profio. Currently, people are heading southeast on King, they're heading south on Profio, or they're heading north on Profio. Those are the three movements and the three distribution patterns. When we counted, 60% of that traffic was going east on King. 15% of that traffic, or I should say 20% of that traffic, is going north on Profio, and the other 20%, for a total of 100, is going south on Profio. So this graphic here shows the site in this location. The green is where 20% of the traffic's moving. The blue is where 60% of the traffic is moving, and the yellow is where 20% of the traffic is moving. And these numbers are associated with the trip generation associated with our development. So what we've been asked to do is say, how many trips in the AM and PM peak hour are going north on Profio, and that is 15 trips in the AM, 20 trips in the PM. It equates to 45 AM trips and 60 PM trips heading south on King, and the other 20% south on Profio are 15 AM trips and 20 PM trips. And we've submitted this data to Gateway. We received a letter, a review letter yesterday. It did not contain comments with regards to this revised statement, and I don't know if it has been reviewed yet or not, but we're confident that this satisfies the request from the township in regards to trip distribution.
Well, I think we can get into it. You finish your presentation, then I'll comment.
Okay. In terms of sight distance at Profio Road, sight distance looking left out of the development is 335 feet. Looking right out of the development is 220 feet. Posted speed limit is 25 miles per hour. We took the posted speed limit and the roadway grades to determine the required sight distance. The required sight distance looking left out of the development is 150 feet. We have 223% of what's required. And looking right out of the development, it's 145 feet, and we have 150% of what's required. So in both instances, sight distance is adequate. And then this is the revised plan that we submitted. There were two, I guess, I would say substantial, but two edits that are different from last month's submission. The first is the green trail, proposed trail that we've added to the site plan. We've tried to take into consideration some of the grades and show switchbacks where we believe they'll happen. And we'll, during design, preliminary and final design, we will update our plans to reflect a grading plan that shows the actual alignment of this trail. We also were asked to revise the lots in the northeastern cul-de-sac. We had lots that were extending out into the buffer that's required. Those lots have been revised and meet the minimum standard. And then this is just the rendering that we showed last month. It's been revised as well to show the lots in these locations that have been taken out of the required setback. So at this point, I can go into the details of what was presented at last month's meeting. I have that data. I think the only thing that I think that I haven't talked about, or I don't think that I'd be able to get to with any of your questions, are just pictures of the existing roadway conditions. If anybody wants me to show what those look like, I have that here. But I'd say, if not, if you're confident that our meeting with DPW and the township is sufficient, we can just take some of your questions.
So your lot line revisions, did that impact the number of lots? No?
No, it did not.
Can you give a little more detail on the conversation with DPW on the road improvements?
I can speak to that.
Okay, perfect.
You want to do that now?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
So, Joe Seitz and Bill Botterorf met with representatives from the developer, as Bill has described in the field. We've outlined what improvements need to be made to the road. We're going to come up with cost estimates related to that, and that'll be a subject for discussion with the supervisors relative to conditions of the conditional use. So I think that what I got of it is that the director and Joe from our office, who handles most of the road work here, there's upgrades that can be made to the road that will make it sufficient for this development. So that's the plan. I haven't seen the finished estimate yet, but whatever that is, I mean, there will be a recommended voluntary impact fee or whatever it is, as Bill described.
Ballpark order of magnitude on the improvements?
Not yet. But I mean, the contribution, just in terms of scale of these contributions on the Silver Creek thing, I think it was $1,400 a lot that Miranda paid, something to that effect. So those are, generally, if we can work within those ranges. Again, I think, was it King that required more work than Profio?
If you don't mind, I'm going to have Jared come up. This is
Yeah.
Jared Litvin. He was on site, and he could speak to it better than I can.
I'm Jared Litvin with Kimley Horn. When we met on site, Profio Road was in need of more repair than King. King was in good shape.
Okay.
I think road condition-wise, Profio is in much rougher shape than King. I think the amount of work required to perhaps widen the road, if that's deemed to be necessary, I think is going to be more substantial on King than Profio.
Yeah, and widening was not part of the fixes that we were talking about. It was just stabilization and other improvements in that sort.
I'd be curious for me and my personal experiences on either one of those roads, if we're going to continue to develop on those roads and to add traffic flow to those roads, widening of those roads, and public safety, safety improvements to roads such as King with guardrails in some areas of the road and whatnot are some much needed improvements if we're going to continue to develop in that area. I don't expect you to comment on that.
No, but that can be added
Share
as
my,
the fee.
opinion here with the commission. Anybody have any other questions?
I have some questions when you guys are done.
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Okay. Bill, do you actually have a service letter, availability letter from the authority to service by sanitary sewers yet?
No, we do not.
So you really don't have a plan until you have that? You're not going to Cecil because you'd have to build a couple miles of sewer, right?
Yeah, no, we would not do that.
Okay. Because there was discussions whether a pump station would be required or not?
We are not considering or proposing a pump station. We are proposing E1 grinder pumps on these lots and having a force main that ties into the nearest public sewer that's on Profio Road, north of our development.
So would the sewers, how would the sewers be owned? How would the force main be owned in the development?
It would be publicly owned.
By the
Is-
authority? They would?
That was the discussion that we had, and they were comfortable with that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think it'd be a good thing to have sooner than later.
And I think we can request that, and when we spoke to the authority, I think we can have that prior to a public hearing, certainly.
But they may agree to it, but then you got to go through DEP.
Absolutely. Are you suggesting that we would go through DEP before we would?
Dave knows more about the DEP than I do.
Yes, so each individual lot will have a grinder pump. That's how it's proposed.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, so it'll be a planning module with DEP, which of course both Cecil and McDonald, you said?
Midway.
Midway. Both would have to sign off. I just wonder if Cecil will own the force mains? Or if, I'm assuming they would.
No.
No, that would have to be Midway.
I mean, Midway owns the sewers in Timber Run.
Timber Run.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my only question is, from a planning perspective, would DEP be open to that many lots being serviced by grinder pumps? They're usually okay
It's-
with a couple, but I've never
I'm
seen grinder pumps to this scale.
I'm a bit surprised Midway would be, because DEP's probably gonna make Midway responsible for the individual grinder pump. So if something fails in 4 or 5 years, Midway is gonna be on the hook
The way that we recently permitted through DEP 43 grinder pumps in Kennedy Township, and it was the responsibility of the
HOA?
HOA.
Okay. That would be the best case scenario, I would think, for Midway's purposes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, personally. No, that's,
Yeah, so my recommendation would be a joint meeting, obviously, between Midway and a representative from DEP. And I'm sure you're familiar with the planning module
I am.
process. It's pretty straightforward.
I am, yeah,
But-
absolutely.
Just the grinder pumps throw a bit of a unknown into it.
Yeah, I understood.
Yeah, I think that you should have some answers more, by the time you get to the front of the supervisors for a conditional use hearing on this, if that's the planning commission's recommendation. I definitely have those answers. And then, Bill, we didn't have a chance to digest the traffic information. I just find out, I mean, we just got this information pretty quickly here on the trip distribution. So you did counts to determine what the current conditions are. What is has there been any analysis by a traffic engineer to discuss what the distribution would be after the development? Is it assumed it's gonna be exactly the same as the?
It would be assumed that it would be similar, and that's what we've applied the distribution current to the anticipated or the calculated trips for the development. That's what the data that we have shown
So
currently.
is the Paulus in your shop now?
It is Jeff DePaulis.
Is that his recommendation?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And he, I think at the last meeting, we discussed the need for traffic engineering representation, for the public hearing. So the developer will have Jeff at the meeting as well as myself to describe it from a traffic engineer's perspective.
I think they were my major comments. I mean, I think we can get past the road issues and this, in terms of the improvements. My only question is, I just get concerned about pass-through trips through other neighborhoods.
yeah,
I mean, everybody's gonna say everybody's going to the expressway, right? Isn't that the answer to everything?
well, I mean, as far as pass-through, I mean, I'm a resident of Timber Run. I'm gonna tell you, majority of those people are not gonna, a lot of people will experiment with cutting through Timber Run,
Right.
but ultimately they'll find that it's not,
Yeah, it's too
it just doesn't work.
burdensome. Well,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, I think that, the vast majority, if you're heading to Bridgeville, you're heading to 79, you're gonna go down King Road. If you're heading to Midway, you're gonna go out, whichever one you're closest to, King or Profio, but ultimately take Profio over to Rising. You're not gonna cut through. I mean, I think there's, the green line there showing people going out Gladden. I mean, I don't even think most of the people who live on Gladden go that way. They would come back over to 980 and run down through McDonald, so. But yeah, the majority of the traffic's gonna go in and out the King entrance. I think your numbers are pretty spot on there, for just knowing the area. But yeah, I'm not necessarily worried about pass-through
Okay.
on Timber Run. I'm more worried about homeowners which homeowners' responsibility for grinder pumps and HOA, that's troubling to me.
And I'm guessing the surrounding homes are probably not on public sewer? So DEP it just seems like a central pump station may make more sense. And how many lots are we talking?
101.
101. That's a lot. It's a lot of grinder pumps. But I think ultimately that would be Midway's decision.
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking, you know, I'm thinking out loud as a, you know,
Oh, potential,
potential homeowner or as a member of an HOA in that experience, having either the individual homeowners or the HOA be responsible for the grinder pumps, especially in a plan of that size, would be a sizable responsibility to push back to that, to just those residents, especially if you're missing the opportunity to offer public sewage to the adjacent properties at the same time.
And we can have that discussion with Midway in the interim before we do get to a public hearing so that we have answers for the supervisors.
and we assume Cecil will give up that area
For,
for sewage.
yeah, I mean, is this area in the Miller's Run service area, or is it in the,
Our understanding is it's in the Midway service area.
so it's already in the
Okay.
Miller's service?
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
It's just the issue that Midway doesn't want another pump station, is that correct?
I can't speak to that, Dan. I wasn't at the meeting with NVR and Doug Warden, the developer, when they had the discussion. I just spoke with Mr. Koch again, just to confirm that we were going that direction.
Would the site drain by gravity to one central point for a pump station? You'd have to have,
Yes, I believe it would.
okay.
And we do have Gateway's letter, original review letter, which has not been,
Yeah, we've updated our letter.
Oh,
We
you- okay.
actually updated it today based upon getting the information, so we only have, did you not get that one?
I don't think we got that. Did it come out today? Okay, yeah, I didn't
have
see
been
it.
emailed.
I thought, well, Shannon sent it, but we do have an updated letter, and they have addressed all of the comments as described by Bill tonight. So we have a letter dated today. I mean, in terms of the cluster development, I mean, they worked hard to make this fit the cluster development. And it does have the effect that, that we're looking for with that. A lot of open space, lots aren't right on top of each other. I know I didn't have a chance to comment on this last month. But, so I think the layout looks good.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Take a look at that. Troy, you want to see that letter before we?
I apologize, I wasn't here last month, but so all easement issues have been resolved? You have easements for the trail across private property?
It has not been shown on the plan, but our intention is to, when we subdivide and come in with a subdivision plan to the township, that if the trail runs on private property, it will have an easement, so that it's owned by the HOA.
No, I guess the question was last month, did you guys have it shown on a piece of ground that you guys didn't control
We didn't show the trail
at all?
at all last month, and
Yeah,
that
So the way you've depicted the trail now, it's all within the property that's under development consideration?
there's locations where it comes through and comes here. I'll get to that.
Other way, yeah.
There's locations in this instance where we are coming through a side yard.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't
I
shown
understood.
an easement there, but when we subdivide, we will provide those easements.
Still within the plan, they're not exiting the,
No, we are not. We're not.
That was my question.
No, we're staying on our property.
I got you.
Thank you. Sorry about the confusion.
That's a whole lot different, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve application 2023-0014, the conditional use of the Toward property, contingent upon addressing the items listed in the Gateway Engineers letter dated June 14th, 2023.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to new business now. We have application 2023-0016, More Property Townhomes. Applicant DRB Homes. To you.
Just send it there, that's fine. Just do your presentation.
Hi, can you hear me or is that too loud? All right. Hi, my name is Joe Katrishka. I'm here representing DRB Homes for the Moore Townhouse Development project. The purpose of the submission tonight was a simple site plan review. Wanted to submit the project and get feedback before proceeding with the PRD application for the project. There. I was in receipt of a review letter from Gateway Engineers, and for the most part, majority of the comments will be addressed in the PRD application. And then there's 3 items with unit types, access points, and parking. We were planning on discussing that with the Board of Supervisors at the conditional use hearing. I can get into more detail of the review letter, or I'll let Dan ask some questions. Might be easier to go that route.
You're going to do a presentation on the plan?
Yeah, I can do that. I didn't know if you wanted to go into the.
I mean, that's typically what, if this is the first time the planning.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure if they had a chance to review anything. The property is the Moore property, which is located off of Mulroney Road, and the adjacent property that we're hoping to consolidate is part of the Fleer property, the Fleer subdivision. I don't know if you can follow the cursor, if I can get it to work. This is Windcrest and Timbercrest in the Fleer plan, and Mulroney Road is in this location here. The Moore property is this area right here that I'm circling around. And to meet the PRD requirements, we are getting into agreement with the Fleers for the additional acreage needed to meet the PRD 20-acre requirement for that. High level, when we did the layout, I know there's concerns with infrastructure, design with that. There are 3 existing sort of discharge points on the Moore property that we'd be able to convey stormwater to, which is in this area here, the area over here, which is part of the Fleer property, and down near Mulroney Road. There is existing sanitary sewer that flows through the site already, and there's also a sewer line along Mulroney that we should be able to tie in one or the other for that. Water service is along Mulroney Road also, and if needed, there's a possibility along Windcrest. One thing that we're hoping to get was a traffic statement with Kimley Horn. I know Bill's here tonight. We were not able to get that for the meeting, but we would get that for the PRD application. And a question I had, is it just a statement that's required, or will we need a full-blown study?
Joe, do you want me to get into your intersection that I don't really like?
Yeah, we can. That's part of the traffic, so that's fine.
I was already looking at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a horrific intersection. We know that. We know you have no other way to come in. So I guess it's really, how are you going to mitigate that circumstance? What are you planning?
Well, that was going to get into the next step with the traffic statement or study. They would come back with
But you're asking
recommendation.
you're asking the planning commission to review and approve 100 units coming out to a choke point on it.
No, what I'm asking tonight for basically is feedback, that when we come in for the PRD application, I can address these in more detail. Now,
So
if
are you
I,
here for pre-application tonight?
yeah, this isn't for final approval. This is more of just a review
Did you
of,
make application at all?
no, I did not make a PRD application. It was basically a simple site plan review.
Okay.
No,
I know that was one of our comments.
yeah.
It's the wrong
No,
one.
which is great, because
It's the
that was the whole
wrong-
reason, because I didn't want to progress far along in the PRD application with the drawings, and then go down one direction or with the design, and then find out that the planning commission wanted to see something else, so this is helpful.
Well, you
for-
could have come in for a pre-application too and got feedback from the planning commission, but that's.
I mean, we got to this point,
That's semantics.
yeah, I want to introduce the project and go forth that way. Yeah, I wasn't coming in with hopes of, if you want to give approval, more than happy to accept it, but it was more of just to get feedback and making sure we're in the right direction with the project. Yeah. Yeah, as far as the intersection here, I understand that the township has issues with the current condition, and working with the traffic engineer, we would hope to come up with a mitigation plan to solve that.
I think the property already has access off a private lane that comes down and comes up.
Well, there's a lane right here. It's my understanding that that could not be used because I don't know if it's a township road or if it's a public road or does not meet the public or the township standards for a public right-of-way. I think the maximum number of units for a private road are there now.
Yeah, it's already at maximum use, but it could be improved and then dedicated as a,
Yeah. One thing, speaking with the Moores and speaking with their representative, is that they would not want us to use this.
they're trying to keep the traffic away from,
Yeah.
because that'd be a lot better from the perspective of the traffic in and out than what you're
No,
currently.
I agree. It relieves a potential fourth access to there and makes a better access point for sight distance.
I thought maybe but I think there's an unfinished, undeveloped lot up here on the corner on the FLIR plan as well that,
You talking in this area here? Or?
yeah, somewhere in that corner there. I think there's an undeveloped lot in the FLIR plan that could potentially give access to
On-
Windcrest or
Onto
Timber
Windcrest, yeah. We looked at the potential of that. The concern with that is if we would do a connection through, that it would be used more as a throughway to get to Route 50 as opposed to people in the development here, which sure the traffic study would probably show if that's an issue or not.
If you connected down to Mawinnie and up there, absolutely, everybody in FLIR plan would be running through 100% there. I mean, unless you really made it roundabout and lengthy and inconvenient.
So is this large, like, gray area towards the bottom, is that a guest parking lot?
This area here? It's a cul-de-sac, and there is proposed parking in that cul-de-sac area here, and there's also extra parking proposed in other areas of the development.
Okay. Yeah, that's. Thank you.
The old barn. Yeah, the view off the back there is going to would be probably really good. I think the old barn sits right about there.
I believe it's in this area right around here.
Yeah, you can't see where I'm pointing
Yeah.
at. I'm pointing the same spot. Yeah, my first look at your master plan here, my first thought as soon as I looked at it and realized exactly where everything was and where it tied in was exactly what Dan was talking about. Any tie-in there, I mean, Dan, I mean, help me out maybe. I mean, you'd almost have to rebuild that turn and take the turn out and make it almost like a three-way intersection if you were gonna make it work. like actually line it up with the run coming down, Mawinnie coming down, and then make it into a three-way intersection rather than that curve, which is a bad curve to begin with.
And you're talking 10 trips per unit? I don't know what the peak hour trip generation would be from that.
So we're at 1250, we'd be adding with the development, with the 10 per day that you had mentioned?
Yeah.
Yep.
But what's the impact of that at the bottom of Winnie and 50? I don't even know what the counts are on that road. People use that road to cut through now to get down to busy road.
Yeah, and making a turn off of Mawinnie on the 50 now is tough. I would suspect that the vast majority of the residents in here, if they're looking to go south on 79, they're not going to go down 50, they're not going to go cross over 50 and hit 576 and cut back. They're going to go up Mawinnie, run out Klinger, and hit the South Point exit. Because I make that run myself. I come down Cecil Rising, cut right across there and run out the 79, even from Timber Run.
It's a lot of units.
Yeah, it's gonna cause issues. Mawinnie and 50, Mawinnie and someone help me out. The top.
It's County Line Road, or McConnell Road.
McConnell Road. Thank you.
It's County Line in South Fayette.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's already with the traffic coming up the hill having a right of way. It's already a tricky intersection. The top of the hill for some people. Is it? Yeah.
Question concerning the traffic. Is the township receptive, or can the township allow a reconfiguration of this intersection if that's what's recommended by the traffic study? Or is there another?
Township-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can the township what?
If the traffic study recommends a reconfiguration of this intersection to be a safe intersection, is the township receptive to that?
It's a board of supervisors decision.
Yeah.
It's the developer's cost, and if all the neighbors are happy.
Actually, it ended up being a four-way, as he was asking a question, it'd actually be a four-way intersection because Moore Lane would be the fourth
Yes.
side of that, the private lane.
Yeah, I didn't know if there would, because obviously you'd have to have a stop sign, and there's not a stop sign there now, and is that an issue or not?
Yeah.
With
I mean,
current traffic.
Joe, the only thing that I can tell you, and you know we've met several times
Yeah.
on this project, we've met with Mr. Petrushkin and talked about it. And I know he wants to try to get as much input as he can from the planning commission before he decides whether he's gonna make application for the PRD. But I've been brutally honest with Joe that it's just, the intersection is it's a non-starter for me. It's just really, really difficult. It's a tough piece of ground. You know, I question even as a PRD whether it meets our, you know, it's one housing type. A PRD is typically can be, you know, it typically provides more than one housing type. It's all townhouses because we need density to afford to make the project financially feasible, and I understand all that. I mean, there's 600 feet of road coming up there without any units on it.
Yeah, from Mulroney to this intersection, I think it's like 596, but yes, 600.
So it's a tough project, I'm sure, to pencil out in terms of making it work financially, but it's, I mean, I just know that the Board of Supervisors has, at least the current board has been down on townhouse, many townhouses.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with them on that too. I mean, the traffic, the traffic counts and everything, the whole issue goes away if it's single-family homes. But to your point, is it a feasible, is a profitable project for the developer at that point?
Joe's already answered that.
Yeah, we've talked about that with the developer, that the numbers don't pencil with that. And just the way, unfortunately, the site is laid out, it's tough to get double loaded in certain areas over there, so it's not making the most efficient use of the site. And I want to thank Dan for meeting with us early on and being brutally honest, because that is helping us in how we approach the project. There.
And Joe, I mean, and be honest, I mean, we haven't even touched the surface. You have to make contact with all the neighbors within 300 feet.
Yeah, I understand. I know the process of the
And,
application.
I know you grew up in Cecil,
Yeah.
so you can imagine how much fun that meeting's gonna be. When we notify everybody about building in their backyard.
Well, I don't know if I should give my name or go under a pseudonym if that is
I
the
mean,
case.
This has a double whammy of all the backyards for the flare plan and all the
Oh,
backyards for people on Profio. So you're squeezing it all in between there. That's, like I say, the public is not gonna be happy with this, and if we can't say with a straight face that it's really a good plan and it's good for the township, and it's not gonna cause stress on everybody else, it's gonna be a hard sell. That's just my opinion.
And that was the purpose of having this meeting tonight, to at least get that, knowing exactly what we have to deal with if we decide to come back with the application there. And it's much appreciated with the feedback on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought for the last couple of years that the development of that property is inevitable. I'm with Dan. I don't know if this one's gonna. I don't know.
I mean,
There's a
Joe,
lot- there's a lot
it's a risk you run.
No, yeah, no, understood.
You come back in with a PRD application, you get a traffic study done, you propose to pay for all the improvements down there, you check out that you don't have issues, there are intersections, because I think there'd at least be 3 intersection study we talked about, like McConnell and
And 50,
50,
yeah. I mean,
yeah, McConnell and,
as it is now, Mawinnie,
yeah.
as it is now getting off of Mawinnie on the 50, you probably already know, it's, if you're coming down Mawinnie and you want to make a turn on the 50 and you're there at the wrong time of day, you're wishing there was a traffic.
You're going to
light
back
there.
up and go an opposite way.
You add all
understand.
these trips and it's just going to compound that.
Yeah, and that's why, once we do the traffic statement and study, that at least would have at least better direction on our end, what that's going to impact there.
Sorry,
No, no.
we got a visitor.
Close the door, huh?
Yeah, Dan, I don't really see anything else on it from my eyes that jump out at me besides,
I mean, stormwater can be handled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be an issue with the people that have the water coming through their property. I mean, there is a storm sewer I know down along Mawinnie Road that was put in years ago when that road was widened initially. That road was widened a number of years ago for buses, because the buses couldn't get up through there. It was so narrow. And there was a stream that came all the way along the road. So that was an improvement the township made some years back, but
because I think the only other option there is to make Mawinnie one way and then bring them down through Belgium Hill. What's the road there, coming the other way? Make it almost like a loop,
yeah,
right? You're not gonna get any wider.
aren't gonna be happy by changing directions on roads either.
No, no. I wasn't advocating for that.
Yeah,
Saying there's not a lot of options.
so so tonight there's a land development application. Don't think you should take any action on that. And I guess, Joe, in terms of coming back to the planning commission with a PRD application, I mean, that's your call if you want to take that risk.
Yeah, that would be the next step. I wasn't anticipating any type of approvals or anything tonight. It was more of feedback. Then taking that back and then discussing it internally to see if it's worth taking the next step or not there. There.
Dave, Barb, sure, Dan and I've had a fair amount of feedback. Do you guys got anything to add?
It seems like the access is the main sticking point. Everything else can be addressed.
Okay, appreciate it.
So is there a need to table or just no action at all?
I think
I think we have to table.
table it.
Well, I'll make a motion. We table application 2023-0016, the Moore Property Townhomes.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion to table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Joe, I mean, if you decide to go with the PRD, you'd withdraw this one for now.
It's like, I'll get with Jack and do whatever.
Yeah, so it'd be a withdrawal of this application. If you decide to do nothing, I'd withdraw it also and get your,
So I guess the options are with PRD or use by right, and we'd have to go back with the PRD or a use by
well,
right.
it's a use by right in the R2.
Yeah, it's just less density, but that may be a possibility too, I'm not sure. This is obviously a better layout and it better suits the developer from that standpoint.
But, yeah.
Well, I appreciate the input, feedback, and
I thought the property originally, Moore Lane, I thought was all part of that property when it was.
then, from this area here, there are a few houses along here that's not part of Moore Lane proper, or Moore property. I believe the Moores themselves moved out of the house that's here and into one of these houses over here.
Oh, yeah, the farmhouse hasn't been lived in
Yeah.
many years. Is it 4? I thought it was 6, but 4.
Yeah, we were told early on with their sales rep that we can only get access, because this is a separate parcel right here.
Right, they were requiring purchase of that
Yeah.
parcel.
So they all need to be consolidated into one to meet the PRD requirements.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate it, thank you, guys.
Would you be able to see this from there?
Okay. Moving on with new business, application 2023-0017, GSL site plan, addition to existing building. Carrie. All right, how are you?
Huh? No. Okay. Just the site plan, so.
Are you the last 3?
The last two, Dan and I will advance.
Okay.
Yep, we paid.
Yes, you did.
That's good.
There we go. Yeah, that's fine. Kerry Kreider from KLH. This is a proposed site plan on Morganza Road. It's the building in the front. There's 2 buildings in the front currently. GSL Landscaping, there's a couple different businesses in those 2. Building behind those 2. Got Dan's comment letter from, what is it, Tuesday? But we haven't got a chance to address all the comments yet.
Yeah, we have it in front of us.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So Carrie, one of the things that, when we look back in our files from the previous approval of this was approved by Alvarez's for a contractor's yard years ago, and I guess this is just an addition to that plan. They never paved the spaces that they were supposed to pave
Okay.
in the development. So one of the things that Shannon and I talked about was that the developer would at least have to, dust-free paving could be just tar and chip. But the parking spaces for at least what's required for this new building and for what they didn't do the last time would need paved. So I don't know if your person doing the stormwater was aware of that?
I want to say probably not.
Okay. So that was, I mean, I don't know if that affects the stormwater or that will, probably not. I think they had stormwater, and they put some sort of stormwater system in, but I don't have their plan. I found their letters and stuff. It was before we scanned plans into the files.
I have the plans if you want a copy of them.
Just so you can address it. I mean, I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
I was
Okay.
gonna ask how long ago that was, because I saw that in your notes.
Yeah, it was approved. I want to,
Because that should have been caught as part of like the bonding for the.
yeah, but
site
CB,
improvements, right?
until Bosley came on board, we never bonded site improvement.
That's why I was asking how long ago it was. That's
Yeah,
what I
it
meant.
was-
Okay, that makes
I
sense
called
then.
BB before Bruce.
Okay, yeah, we can.
So what is this building going to be?
Partly a shop for them.
So are they going to operate the whole site now?
I
Or
don't know,
somebody
'cause
else using the rest of the site? Is there multiple tenants there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, the
Not that it's
front,
a part
there's his landscaping, and then he has another business in there also, so I can't answer you that.
So this is just another use on that same site. Will this new building have bathrooms?
Tentatively, yes, there was one bathroom, and then,
Yeah, because a building has to have a bathroom now per code, don't they?
yeah, except, unless it's for.
Storage.
Yeah, yep.
So holding tank here, there's no sewers out here either.
Correct.
And that was part of our other major question, was it you gonna tie in an existing holding tank? I'm not sure how the sewage was gonna be handled. I mean, the rest of the stuff is just, they're just nitpicking little comments on, I didn't review the stormwater or just comments related to the ordinance and things that are required to be put on the plan and
Yeah.
so forth.
We always do what's
I mean, it's not a complicated project. I think that, you know, if those issues can be addressed, and the only other thing I had was, is it really a change in use? Do you need to go back to PennDOT for anything for your HOP? If they see another building being put up there? I don't know what the status of their HOP was off of Morganza.
I have
Well-
a copy of it too.
And that kind of leads into the question that I had was, it's noting here that it's supposed, in your letter, that it's supposed to be an accessory building to be used as a mechanic shop and storage. Number one on the land development plan note says an automobile repair garage is permitted use, but it's not really gonna be an automotive repair garage, is it? It's gonna be an accessory building for the landscaping business, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not, unless he's putting in,
No,
he's
it-
gonna open up a mechanic shop,
No.
right? Because then that changes everything.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, I'm with you, I wanted to clarify that a little.
All right, I'll get that. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a shop for his, to work on his equipment.
So it's a landscaping business. This is just his vehicle storage area and
Yeah.
vehicle repair
Yep,
shop.
and a shop to work on the equipment.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a fair amount here, though, as far as that question about the HOP, the impervious surface question, the conversation needs to be had there. And what was the other one, Dan?
The sewage? or
The sewage, yeah, because, was the holding tank designed for future capacity.
Yeah, or just be spruced up to know that we even have a holding tank agreement on this thing. I can't remember the last time what happened, whether Liz keeps track of all the agreements.
Okay.
I'm sure we could dig it up if he doesn't have one, but it should have been approved by I think no matter what, if you're gonna add a new tank or whatever, you need the sewage council's approval.
So is this something that can be overcome before, in the next, 2 weeks? 2.5 weeks? Or is this,
How fast are they looking to move on this?
Same as everybody else. There's nobody that says it'll wait, another month. I mean, but that's, if it has to, it has to.
Is it a metal building or something? Did they order it already, or?
He did not order yet, as far as I know.
Okay. That's gonna take them at least 4 months to get.
Yeah, a building.
I'd prefer just bring it back one more time and make sure we got everything buttoned up.
that's what I'm thinking, but
That's fine.
I'm looking for some feedback otherwise here. Yeah, I think there's some important questions that need to be taken back to him and asked
Okay,
Uh,
that's
uh,
fine.
of his intent. We have a motion? Oh. I think that's what we're discussing, yes. I mean, do you agree, or? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move to table application number 20230017, GSL site plan, with noted that there are items to be fulfilled in the Gateway Engineer letter dated June 13th, 2023.
I'll second that motion. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to table in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're
Thank
gonna have
you.
a busy month next month.
Yeah.
I always have a busy month.
You ready for the next one? All right.
Huh? Yep. This is the Valley Tire site for New Bell Construction. Again, this one, there are a few there are some comments, but I don't think it's anything that can't be addressed in the next week even.
Kerry, what is the purpose of the building?
It's going to be Midwest Hose Company,
So it's a separate entity,
correct?
and so Valley Tire is leasing this ground to them, or what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Same question gets back, this is all holding tanks up here, right? I assume they're gonna have to operate on their own,
Correct.
so I'm just assuming that you'd be okay because it's commercial,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something to talk to the sewage council about. And I assume they would want their own holding tank, right?
Correct.
do you have to do a planning module for a holding tank? Or can the council just approve that? I think the council can approve that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, the other one, Kerry, was, we just weren't sure based upon the stormwater report, all of this land goes to one big pond. It sits as you come up Commerce Drive.
On the right-hand side.
And I think, we were unclear whether that pond, the original report was done in 2016. We were unclear if that basin covered
It did.
that area.
It covered that whole Valley Tire site.
Okay.
That's why it was all graded.
Well, just some sort of a verification, I think we're asking on for you
Okay.
guys to put a statement to that.
Okay. I have the old stormwater report.
Yeah, it just, I don't know that we had all the exhibits from it,
Okay.
but we just said that it was unclear whether it could handle the volume and the rate control for both of them. Because things have changed too in terms of the ordinance. That was done under the old ordinance. I think it might have just come under it.
And this one, they are in a hurry. He ordered the building already. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, that was lot 1 of lot 4 of the Fairfield subdivision. And they just actually filed for the NOT for the remainder of the site.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. We released all the money to Fairfield, who developed the whole
Okay.
site. So the other thing, are there any fire hydrants on this site? I just question if another,
Okay.
this probably be good to talk to Mac, the fire
Okay.
chief,
Mhm.
and make sure he's comfortable with what's going on. Are those buildings, are they okay? Building code-wise, the proximity between the two of them, height-wise and what's stored in them, I don't know. Sometimes with commercial a building code, our ordinance doesn't have any minimum requirements, but sometimes the building code will have a certain
Yeah, I'll have,
distance based upon height. And just the positioning of those, I don't know if this building's gonna be sprinkled.
I don't know that, because I didn't,
I don't wanna play fire chief, but I think maybe to talk to Mac.
well, I can talk to our building code guy at our office.
Yeah, but make sure you talk to,
I will.
we have a fire chief here now.
Yeah.
Mac,
Okay.
so that's in my letter, just to say, the fire, township staff for fire protection.
Okay.
They're gonna want enough space between the two buildings based off height, that they can make sure they can position a fire apparatus
Right, in the ladder.
outside of the lot.
I'm not even sure, Kerry, where the front door is or where the garage door is on this, or it's not quite clear how they're gonna get into the building.
Okay.
Yeah, where the parking spaces. I think we say the parking is okay, the parking is good. And where's the front door on this one? I
So
guess
the-
right in between those.
Get my little. So here's the loading area here.
Is that a dock? Does that go down in elevation there?
Yeah. Or it's either that or it's an elevated dock.
No, okay.
It's got the L for the, right here.
Okay,
So there's the wall is here for the loading dock.
Am I reading this right? They're actually not showing access. Like it's gonna be.
Get to the-
Gonna be able to come around. Oh, maybe a little bit.
Stockpile, right, so that's,
That'd be like green space
yeah.
there. See, an exit down to there, even if it's.
do you know
got
the
a
height on
public
that building,
road,
Terry?
walking roadway, fire department can
It's like
sit
30 feet?
one-
I got, it says 16 foot, one story on the plan. Does that make sense?
I do not, yeah, I can't get it. I can submit the floor plan and the, some elevation details on the building.
And what do you think about that? Can you just go back up just a hair? I know this is the paved lot over here for Valley. Looks like it comes around and you can get around the building this way, but then it kind of dead ends right there. Maybe, have paved surface there or some type of gravel surface.
It makes some sort of connection.
Yeah,
It makes
maybe
it-
a lock and boulder on it. Serves.
Right.
Okay.
Again, I mean, if it's a sprinkled building, he's not gonna have as much concern, and if it's like a warehouse or some sort of storage facility, it's probably gonna be sprinkled.
Yeah, the company that's going in there is called Midwest Hose.
Something to do with the drilling industry, I assume?
I don't know, dear.
Yeah. So is it just a warehouse? So it's one for 300, it's got a lot of parking spaces, it's more than that, there's office and,
I think there's, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a small office area.
They're a hose supplier that's coming from South Point Drive in Bridgeville.
Like I said, I haven't talked to them at all. Because New Bell is our client, they're the ones that are gonna be building the building.
so there's 3740, there's about almost 4,000 square feet of office, which requires 13 spaces. 30,000 of warehouse, which requires another 16. It's in 29 spaces. Okay, that makes sense. So New Bell is gonna build it for these people.
Correct.
These, New Bell has a lease with Valley, or did Valley make the application on this?
No, New Bell.
Okay, do they have have you submitted anything in terms of the ability to do that? Because they don't own the property, right?
Correct. Yeah, all right, I'll get you.
Is there
the-
some sort of an agreement? We should have the agreement on file.
Okay.
Agreement of sale or agreement of lease or whatever they want to call it.
I can do that.
And then I guess the only other site plan comment was the driveway entrance is extraordinarily wide.
Wide.
Is that for turning? You might want to get to the supervisors, just have a turning template or something we can show them if.
Yeah, I can put
There's so many comments on that. You're just gonna keep the wedge curb on the road and then that fall on like the road and just go right over top of the wedge curb and
Yep.
pave in from there? Okay.
That's an interesting point about who the applicant is.
It looks like the builder's making application,
Yeah, that's,
contractor's making application, but, yeah.
but they're not,
Valley Zoning and Leasing to I'm presuming Midwest Hose.
I think I can get the.
Photometric plan, that's gonna be. I'm just browsing through it, looking for things that might jump out that hold us back from being able to. I got it. You're good. Dan, what's with the drive aisle, 12-foot drive aisle?
I think that's the one in the rear. That's, I mean, that would probably be a fire lane, if anything. I assume that's what it is. Like the minimum rear, I think there's 12 foot on the rear. The minimum we say is 15. I mean, you could,
When the fire lane should be 20.
no, a fire lane can be less than that. I mean, a fire lane is you're not going to use it for anything else. Was that the purpose of that 12-foot lane in the back, a fire lane, Carrie, or what was the purpose? People using that for access?
On the back of the building?
Yes. Are there doors back there or anything people have to get into?
Standing here like a dummy, I don't, we had it paved going around the building was, I don't know the exact purpose of that, other than keeping it clean.
I think it kind of ties into my question.
The minimum is 15 for one way.
It's a little narrow, and then if it is, I believe the fire department's not, they're gonna,
Well, that's what we said about extending it.
yeah,
Yep.
but you might have to widen it as well. Doesn't look like.
Right on the edge.
It is, but it doesn't look that steep coming off of it either.
That building's gonna seem like it's right on 79. I'm texting the solicitor right now to find out what the situation is. If we had 5 members, it wouldn't be an issue, they both could abstain. But she was just checking because of, that'll be good, you can call the client up and tell me you got tabled because you couldn't vote because there were too many KLH guys on the planning commission.
Well, that,
Days, a nay, and
It'd be two.
2 yeas, abstain, and a nay. That would pass.
Right, that would absolutely pass.
So why wouldn't
I think it's because it's the majority of the board present.
Less important.
Says they may be able to vote under the voter abstain first and then make disclosure.
That's fair, that's true, I don't think you're required, you're not legally required to abstain.
Doing it under your own. You're a lawyer.
This is the first time I'm seeing this.
Or just state that KLH prepared the plan and you're voting, yeah, you're disclosing it.
In case I could vote.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the law doesn't require you to abstain, the law just,
Well, the planning commission is only recommending body.
right. Even on the board of supervisors, I don't think they're required to abstain. Ethically, they should abstain. So, all right. Well, number 19. 's
They
gonna
will get
just-
an extra, well, 4th of July, I think. When's the July meeting? Okay.
Don't get the extra one.
Okay.
But,
We still got 3 weeks.
get them? All right. No, I think 2 weeks is enough, there's not, I
Yeah.
don't think there's a number of items, but I don't think everything's,
Kerry, why don't we get a call on this one and the other one, and we'll go over them,
yeah. Okay.
all right?
do you have a motion on this?
I move to approve application number 2023-0018, New Bell Construction, Inc., Valley Tire Site Development Plan, with the contingency of fulfilling the items stated in the Gateway Engineers letter dated June 13th, 2023.
Before I second, would you also like to add on a suggestion for, if that's a fire lane on the back of the building, to add access? Or-
All right, let's see, which item was that? Let me see, about the fire lane. This one is number 8, right?
that-
With, in particular, to ensure that if the item dated, or number 8 regarding the width of the drive aisle, if it's a fire lane, that it must be widened to accommodate a fire, as a fire lane.
And continued, not a dead end, essentially. Continue.
And not as a dead end.
Yeah, that I'll second.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I will also vote aye with the disclosure that I am a principal at KLH Engineers.
One should abstain. She's saying one person should abstain.
One should
want-
abstain.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that back, Dave?
Yeah, is it to rescind my yay, or aye, and I will vote to abstain.
I'll approve it. Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for humoring us tonight.
Okay, she says that's appropriate.
Thank you. This looks easy. All right, we're moving on, application 2023-0023. Barcelona subdivision.
Yeah, this was a last-minute request. I agreed to Jack that we would get this reviewed very quickly, which was today. It's a simple subdivision over in South Point. It's not even in the form of a subdivision. All that came in was the survey. But it's pretty clear that they want to erase the line between the two lots and propose a new accessory structure in the form of a garage on lot 200A. So all we'll be doing is erasing the line between the lots. I think they own, what, they own two of them? Just two of them, yeah. He owns 200A and 201A. They own
Correct.
them both, and they're gonna combine them together. Actually, he owns 200A, and he and his wife own 201A.
That's well, in SA, they're allowed to have two separate homes on the same driveway. The far right is somebody else. But
I don't know about the Fox. Oh, the Fox part about it, for that driveway, Jack, there's a right-of-way. There's a right-of-way for ingress and egress, and installation of utilities exclusive for the use of lots 200A, 201A, and 202A that cuts through there. They have a common driveway that they share.
In the,
Recall, I didn't see that.
in the house on 201A and the house on 202A already exist.
Correct.
They're just looking to combine 201A and 200A so they can put their garage,
Correct.
because you can't have the garage on the lot by itself.
here's a
There
GIS
you go.
view.
That's a good picture.
There it is.
This is where he wants to put the garage. This is his house here. This is the other, but notice the shared driveway.
I just had some minor comments related to the plan. They just have to put it in subdivision form, that's all. And it'll be ready to go.
Any questions?
I have a letter dated today.
Yep, got it.
You got it.
Yep, yep.
Yep, we have it here. Thank you. Any questions? Any motions?
I'll make a motion, we approve application 2023-0023, the Barcelona subdivision plan, contingent upon addressing the items in the Gateway Engineers letter dated June 15th, 2023.
I second the motion.
We have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And it's going to be busy next month, too. Jack, do we have anything for ordinance and amendments, correspondence, discussion?
Ordinances,
Well, nothing tonight for the planning commission, but on the 19th, the Board of Supervisors is having another workshop. So out of that workshop, I expect the planning commission to see 2 ordinances, one for the new mixed-use development that came out of the comp plan. There was mixed-use residential and mixed-use commercial. So what the board is focused on at their last workshops were 3 areas in the township where they felt there should be a change to the zoning map. So those areas being the Koski property up above Muse that he's redeveloping out of the Boney Pile, the extension of South Point, to add some property onto South Point. The Barney property is the logical extension of South Point. And the third area is the area up along Rising Road with the expressway and the treatment plant that was all part of the comp plan. So it's sort of taken the comp plan land use map and reapplying the zoning map. So it means adding a new designation to the zoning map for these 2 new districts, mixed-use commercial, mixed-use residential, and then adding some, and other changes to the map. So we've got a nice exhibit for it. So once the board looks at it on Monday night, it'll be coming to you guys for your review. And then as also, Jack and I have been working, and Liz have been working on updates to the UDO that we've been sitting on for a little while. There's a second ordinance that'll have updates to the UDO that we'll get out to you. So if we do that meeting on the 19th, Jack and the board, whatever final comments the board has, we'll get it off to you guys immediately after that for you to look at for potentially the next meeting.
Hey, whatever happened with the sign ordinance? Is that DOA?
no, that sign ordinance was adopted. I mean,
The sign, what version of it?
the 40-page one, sorry.
As proposed when it first was presented to us, or were there edits made?
I think there were edits made, and I thought I sent that to everybody. All right, you'll have it tonight then.
Substantial
Yeah,
comments on that,
yeah,
but I never saw what came of that.
I apologize, I'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
And you wanted the copy of the UDO, do you want me to?
No, I'm good, Jack.
Okay.
I'm good.
A motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second that.
8:38. Meeting adjourned.
That was a long one.
Barn burner.
She was like, I'll make that second.
Sometimes we've been here for like 10
Correct.
2 or 3 meetings, we're out of here.